In this video, I'll explore the AI tool called Google Stitch, which you can find here at stitch.withgoogle.com. If you're not familiar with Stitch, it's basically a vibe designing tool. You may have heard of the vibe coding tools that are out there, but Stitch claims to be a vibe designing tool. And it really allows you to rapidly iterate different types of user interface designs, prototypes, as well as generate front-end code. You can use prompts, or you can use images or wireframes as starting points. You can also upload design files or design markup files as references. You can start in Stitch and then export over into Figma, which is useful as well, and to continue to design there in Figma. Part of the idea of Google Stitch is that you can get beyond the blank canvas faster. You can start with UI designs and then iterate on those designs, come up with new ideas, refine, explore, expand, etc. So let's get started. If you want some information on how to use Google Stitch, you might review the docs that are here. It talks about the types of prompts and ways that you can engage with this, including effective prompting. Your prompts can start at a pretty high level and just generate designs, and then you can go from there and add more specificity, or you can actually start with a pretty detailed prompt or even a markdown file. Really, the better you can specify your requirements and your intention and articulate your intention, the more relevant the AI content will be for you. So the better the designs will be for you and match your intention. But you can certainly start at a high level without having to figure out every element of specificity. Sometimes some of the things here say, don't think too hard about it, like just get started, and then you can refine your designs. But in general, when you make a prompt, you'll have sort of the idea, what are you building, some of the thematic or stylistic elements that you have in mind, and what content you want it to make. With that in mind, let's return to the prompt. And I've written a simple prompt for a sort of fictional website called iPoint Advisors that has those elements. Sort of what is it that I want it to make? I'm going to ask it for a home page. I'm going to tell it a little bit about the style, and I might tell it about the structure as well. But I think I'll leave the structure out right now in terms of what I want it to make and just see what it creates. If I asked it to just make a home page, doesn't really even know what to put on that home page yet, but using the styles that I dictate here. So I'm going to copy out some of these elements into the prompt. I'm going to choose for it to make a website. You'll see that it defaults to app, so I do want it to choose web, and what I'm going to do is prompt in what it is that I want it to make. So let's go ahead and get started. You'll notice you can also start with a design markdown file. And so there's information in the docs about how you might build that file, but it will also create one for you that you can then edit and use to have more consistency across the screens that you design. Let's go ahead and get started and see what develops. Okay, so it didn't take all that long for this to produce a design system for this consulting website. It also generated some content. I didn't actually provide any of this text or content, but that's going to be editable. We can, change some things out. And it's done a pretty good job with some standard types of templates here. As you can see, it's got a little bit of information, some cards, a footer, a decent header at the top. We've got, a hero section here with some tagline and also some call to action types of things. It includes this sort of call to action element right here about requesting consultation. It is a consulting firm, and I had told it that. It also created this design system for me right here. So that's pretty interesting. And then it's applying that design system back into the design that's here. Although some of the accent colors seem to be somewhat limited in here within there. It also has added photos and things that it went out and searched for that might relate to the type of company that this might be. Part of this is that you'll be in conversation with the AI, so it tells you what it has built here. It was interpreting my prompt and said that the homepage has a high impact hero, targeted sections, expertise showcase, and call to action buttons that are professional to encourage consultation requests. And so then it's like, how does this look? And you would iterate from here. At this point, we could iterate on this design in a number of different ways. As it says, you can ask for changes. So I could write a new prompt and maybe be specific about what I want to change in the current design. That would be one way to go. Another thing that I could do is go under the Generate tab at the top and ask for variations. And it might make me several variations of this design, and that can be interesting to cross compare options and then potentially go in a different direction. You can then have variations on a variation, and that's a good way to progress. Another thing I can do is edit in the document. So what I might do is choose this edit option, and this gives me an actual live editor here where I can zoom in on this, and I'm going to hit Control Plus to do that, or Command Plus. I'll hit the H key to get my pan hand, and so that I can move around. And I want to modify some of this actual content. So the E key is the quick way to do that modification. You can go on here and sort of create some varying edits. So let's say what I wanted to do is edit some of this text. I could edit it with the content that I want, or I could allow AI to edit that text. So I might change this up a little bit. Let's say I wanted to edit the headline here. I'm going to edit that text. And actually, I just wanted to say building, and then I wanted to just say public, private, public. And I'm going to say, instead of a dash there, I'm just going to say and private partnerships. So I'm going to edit that element, and you'll see that we can have that change happen by editing the page directly within our document here. So once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and maybe make some additional changes to this as well. So let's see, we can select varying elements. We can click on the direct edit option where we can go on and choose things to directly edit. But what I want to do next is actually find some variations. So let me just click on the sort of artboard for this, or the canvas for this whole thing where it says the home page. And let's do a couple other variations of this. Before I actually do variations, I've decided that I don't really love the hero being as large as it is, and I'd actually like to have an image in the background rather than plain color there. So I'm going to ask for that change right here. I'll say add an image to the background of the hero section and reduce its height so that it would take up only about 50% of the viewport height. So let's go ahead and ask for this and see what happens. So first it's going to interpret my, my prompt, and then it will say what it's going to do with that interpretation. So it's going to update the hero section, adding a professional background image, and then it's going to reduce the height. So here's my variation. Still didn't really get an image in the background there, so let me pan over to that side. Holding down the H key, I can kind of pan, zoom in, see what I'm getting here for this. I can't really see that it has much of an image. It looks like it just there is an image there, but it's very they've added it as very subtle. So nevertheless, I've got the smaller header hero section exactly as I had asked for. And I can continue to edit the individual pieces here, but let's explore this idea of creating variations. I'm going to go ahead and choose variations now, and we'll say, well, how many options do you want and what do you want to explore, right? So if the creative range is refined, it's going to be pretty, pretty consistent with the current design styles. If you want like a full reimagining, you can choose reimagine. Explore kind of is in the middle there, and you can choose how many variations you want. In this case, I'm going to get 3 variations, and I really wanted to maybe reimagine the design. And so let's go ahead and implement those. I'm going to hit the generate variations button, and it should generate 3 new variations for me based on this. It's starting to generate the screens. Okay, and now it's finally produced some results. I'm going to go ahead and pan over to look at what those look like. So in this particular case, it's calling this one the narrative, a more radical concept. It actually changed the name to Vanguard Strategy. I don't exactly know why it did that. Maybe it likes that name better for the consulting firm, right? And then, I do like some of what it's doing with the typography here. It changed this up to be established in a particular time. If that's a well-established company, that might make sense. Some sort of nice typography, a darker design scheme here. So playing around with the design scheme. And then we've got a couple other versions here. Maybe in this case, having the call to actions, but more with a photo on the right, a little bit of a gradient in the background. It's also exploring this idea of having capitals that are here. So, and then this one, a little bit more of a black and white version. A lot of times the designs that it seems to produce do look like kind of templates to me. They are pretty standard types of designs that you might find in design templates, but you can come up with some interesting ideas and then sort of work from there. So in this particular case, maybe I like a particular design style, and I might want to move from that style to a different idea. And so we can kind of vary from this idea. I kind of like this dark scheme, so I'm going to take a look at that and maybe explore variations on this particular theme in other ways. So the way that I could do that is select this one, go under generate again, and get some more variations. Once I have this, maybe I want 3 more, and instead of fully clicking reimagine, I'll just say explore, and then I could provide some additional instructions here. I had an original prompt that talked about some structure, and so I'm going to go ahead and put that in so it follows those things. I'm going to say to follow that structure, and I'm also going to say use the name iPoint Advisors for the logo and header, so that it actually uses the title that I wanted as well, and we'll give it a little bit more, and then we'll ask it to generate variations. So let's see what it does. It's starting to generate those variations now, and I'll pause and return. Starting to get a little momentum as it generates the screen. I'm going to go ahead and hit the H key here and move over to see what it's generating. And it's talking about creating some new variants for that home page. We're starting to see some of those come to life. I'll pause as it gets a little closer. Okay, so it's generated some new styles here, and what it's calling the minimalist editorial, the tech forward, and the modern corporate versions. So we can kind of take a look at what those different sort of versions look like. And I can see that maybe this is getting a little closer to some of what I might be interested in. There's not a lot of color in this, and so I might want to do something more specific. But one of the things that it did do well is I said that I wanted a header, then I said I wanted a hero with call to action, and then I wanted 3 design cards underneath. So each of these actually has that exact structure. I have this hero header followed by a hero with some call to action, and then I've got these design cards underneath. So from this, we can continue to sort of refine. And so I think I kind of like this modern corporate version. I'm going to move on from there and continue some exploration. Now that I've got maybe a bit of a direction here for my design that I think might serve my needs, I'd like to actually make the design refined a little bit more based on some of the fonts that I wanted to use, the colors I wanted to use, etc. So one of the options I might have is to actually add some content. There's a little plus button here where you can attach a screenshot, a sketch, or visual inspiration. So I want to actually feed it a mood board that will have colors and images and fonts and things that it might use in order to produce a new design. To make that mood board, I'm actually working at this place for something that I've called moods.io.com. You'll see that that will forward over to this site from Figma. And that right now is sort of labeled Moodio or Moodzio. I've been playing with this name. Anyway, this is something that I've built using Figma Make, the AI tool Figma Make, as well as Figma, and it's a mood board maker. I thought I would use this mood board maker and feed this back into Google Stitch. So the mood board that I had just made here, I had called it this professional corporate mood board. You can load and save mood boards. You're welcome to try it out. You can make a new account. You'd be able to save mood boards, share your mood boards, etc. So I'm able to like share a mood board with somebody else. But the key thing here is that I could also download a mood board. So this is an AI tool that's currently on version 171. I've been in conversation with the AI called Figma Make and creating a mood board maker tool. And that's what I'm sort of doing with this. You can see that you can go, like, for example, to the type page and explore typography. I can click on, for example, the headline right here, or the subheader, or the header, or whatever, and I could change different styles. Maybe I want to see what that looks like in Ubuntu, or I want to select a different sort of Google font for that. How would it be in Oswald, for example? Or how would it be in Space Grotesque, and see what that particularly looks like. I could play with this with font size, letter spacing, all kinds of things. And anything that I like, I can actually save back to my mood board. I can do that with color as well, exploring different colors, editing my colors, adjusting, adding saturation or brightness, and figuring out colors, figuring out imagery. You can browse Unsplash for a particular idea. So let's say I wanted like fruit as a theme. I could search out and like add elements to my mood board. Maybe I like this one. I could save that out to my mood board. I can even extract images from that, but I could save this out. And I could explore all of these. Those things would go onto the mood board where I've got a couple of those extra ones. I don't want them, so I'm going to delete them. What I want to do is just download this mood board. One of the things that's kind of interesting here is you can also define attributes of the sort of visual attributes that you might want. And these potentially could be read or added in as some of the tone and style that you want. So you can browse by category, by positioning, like if it's more luxury, I'm going to have premium, exclusive, refined. If it's more accessible, it might be affordable, inclusive, approachable. So you can, sometimes I like this idea of the positioning sliders, something that's more bold or more subtle, traditional or progressive, as a way of exploring brand attributes. And you'll notice that this mood board has some brand attributes, some gradients, some colors, typography, as well as images. I'm going to go ahead and download this. And once I download that sort of mood board file, here it is, I'd be able to feed that back in to Google Stitch. So I'll come back to Google Stitch and I'm going to actually say update the design system to use the colors, fonts, and photos in the provided mood board image and let's see if that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and attach that mood board by uploading the file. You'll notice that you can also reference URLs. So if you have existing websites that you want to sort of pull design assets from, you could do that. I'm going to upload this here, upload the mood board file, and then go ahead and hit submit. And we'll see what we get back from this selected design. So it's unleashing its AI creativity, and I'll pause here while it works through this. It says that it's on it, that it'll analyze the mood board and extract the color palette, typography, and visual style. And it's going to update the assets. And it's saying once it updated the design components, it's going to make those changes now on the home page to kind of keep the original feel that I was looking at, sophisticated, intellectual, with the new colors and typography. Okay, it says that it updated the design system with a refined color palette, elegant typography, and visual consistency. Let's see if we can find that design. And where did it riff on that? Let's see, I'm going to zoom out. And while it says that I should be able to see the updated version on the canvas, I did not see any changes to these canvas elements. And so I'm not exactly sure why that is. I can see the variations that I had originally, but I don't see any new variations in this canvas. Seems like I'm either missing something or it just like really didn't make very many changes, even though I uploaded a variety of elements. So what I'm going to do is come back to this and see if it will make some new changes. You can see that you can apply a particular design system, and it had updated that system with this one that it's now calling Sovereign Consulting Design System. And so what I might do is try to make sure that I apply that particular design system back on my design. And I'm going to ask for some new variations based on the uploaded mood board as well. So once I've got this selected, I'm going to go ahead and click here to generate a number of variations. And I'm going to say, give me, let's see, create new variations based on the mood board image and new design system that was uploaded. Let's see what we get. All right, it says it's going to make 3 new variations of the home page, drawing inspiration from the mood board's color palette. I'm going to zoom out on my canvas here to see if I can see what sort of new content might emerge as we go. Okay, so it says that it made High Trust Corporate, Editorial Intellectual, and Modern Synergy as the new versions, and I do not see those reflected anywhere here. So let me see if I can figure out what's going on with this. Okay, coming back to this, it may have been just that I wasn't zoomed out enough and I didn't see what was happening. And so it looks like it generated some new content down below in my canvas. And I had thought I'd zoomed out enough, but there was this big separation between what was up top and some of the new stuff that it created. So I've got to consider that, find what's happening. So I finally zoomed way out and saw that. So here's some of the new stuff. There was my mood board that I had brought in and that it was trying to extract from, maybe reference some of the new different sort of colors and things that are here. This is getting a little closer perhaps to what I was looking at. So we can see some of these ideas within here as it was kind of referencing these styles. So it did pull the colors from the mood board to create a new design system. It was calling Sovereign Consulting Design System. Those were pulled from the colors that I was using. And so it was considering these the sort of primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. So I should be able to actually make sure that you can see some of the different color ideas that are on here. So it's using those colors, but very subtly. So I'm gonna actually maybe request some changes to this, and then we've got a few different versions of this down below as well, so we can see kind of maybe how it's using some of the color, what it might look like. Not all of it is perfect either. There's definitely a few like strange things, but it's got some good ideas. Like it's got like a little bit of a testimonial right here. So just coming up with ideas, things that you might like within the different versions that are here. Kind of interesting. So, um, all right. So what I'm going to do is um, I'm going to go to this last one and let's explore having. I'm going to say to take the hero image from the editorial intellectual board. Um, Either that or maybe just having the I think I want maybe the image to a hero image to go underneath, and so I'm gonna see if I can riff on this particular one, and I'm gonna ask for that. So on this, I'm gonna say um, reduce the height of the hero image, the hero area to I'm gonna give it a number, 500 pixels in height, and make the image and give it an overall background image instead of the image being on the right. All right. And then I might also say add accent colors to add spots of brighter color via accent colors applied to the call to action buttons. All right, let's see what it can do with that prompt, and I'll pause to wait. All right, it says it's on it. It's reducing the hero height, applying full width background image, and adding vibrant accent colors to the call to action buttons for a little extra pop. So it's going to be opening the thing on this other screen. Awesome. So it produced that and definitely gave me a little bit more of the result I was looking for here, a little bit more pop. And we've got some other elements. I can certainly start to add, edit this more if I wanted to like try different things for editing or do it in collaboration. But let's say I like this design at the moment and I want to just start riffing on it somewhere else. Well, there's some options for me here in terms of what I can do with this. So you'll notice that, we can generate instant prototypes, we can modify it, we can take a look at the design system. Those are all great, but some of what's really cool here is also that ability to copy this design to Figma. So I can actually take this and copy it to Figma. So once I say export here, I'm able to copy this design and choose Figma as the type that I want. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit that convert, and it's going to so it now copied this. It says, hey, you can paste this now into Figma. So let's take a look at what happens if I try and paste that artboard into Figma now. Inside of Figma, I'll create a new design file, and then I'm going to go ahead and Command V to sort of paste that content in. Command V, there is the design inside of Figma. So all of the different elements are now here in Figma, and I might start to edit this a little bit more. So I can dial into this. You'll see that it actually has organized this in a number of different ways that make sense, and you can sort of navigate in and actually change some stuff up. So it's using this noto serif font. Maybe I want a different font that's part of that design. I could play around with making that selection, changing this out. I can certainly edit the actual type that's in here as well. So I really wanted this to say building public and private partnerships. And I might spell it correctly, partnerships, for the good of communities. So I can edit this out, change some of these things up that are here, and then public dash private. Let's say I can call it public slash private synergy. All right, so from here I can edit all of these elements and create another sort of design. I could then use this design, export it back out, and feed it back into Google Stitch. And so this is the iterative process to design, which is pretty interesting. So like being able to use some of these AI tools in order to explore and iterate on ideas, to create variations, and then see stuff and use your eye, be the art director, be the design thinker that says, okay, how can I make this better? How might this be better? And then using AI to rapidly sort of see your ideas come to life. And often they come to life wrong, right? Like you have to continue to sort of work from there. The other thing that you can do, which is pretty powerful within Google Stitch, is you can take a design and you're actually able to export this out. We could view code for it, we can download it, we can export it. And so I'm going to actually download the file here. So you'll see that it created this zip. I'm going to open that up, extract those particular files. And then once I've got those extracted files, you'll see that it actually has the design markup file here, as well as the code for this. You can take a look at that sort of design markup file and what that would look like. It gives you these, and I'd opened in Visual Studio for me, but it gave a name to the design system that it's using. This is really detailed, and I could provide a design markup file that was not quite so detailed, but if I changed some of this up, so like if I wanted to use different fonts and I wanted to do different things with this, I wanted to define the brand and style and the colors, I could feed this markup file back into the system and it would follow the rules of this file for me. And so once I have a design markup file, you can use that as a starting place, or or to refine your designs back within there. So you could edit this file and feed that back into Google Stitch. The other thing that's pretty interesting here is I've got code, and it actually has marked up this page fully in HTML and CSS. It's also typically it does a pretty good job with and I'm going to just bring this into the design responsive design mode using the inspector, and you'll notice that there is some level of responsive design already built in here. Now, this isn't perfect. It looks like it's losing the menu altogether at this point, right? So it's not like, where did that menu go? I don't even know where the menu went. So it's not perfect, but some of this actually has responsive design in it. It has the elements are built out. It can be a pretty good starting place for the design. If we take a look at some of that content behind the scenes, it is sort of using like these sort of frameworks like Tailwind and things like that, which I don't always love. So it's going out for the CSS and getting the Tailwind CSS, which is like a templating system that you can use for defining all kinds of stuff. But some of the head, it's got the viewport tag already in there. It's got our link out to material design for some of the icons. It's got links out for the fonts that it's using. Some of this is really usable code that's a part of this behind the scenes. I'd be able to actually open up this code inside of Visual Studio and take a look at sort of what that code looks like and kind of how it's functioning. There is some good elements here. So you'll notice that the header itself, for example, it's using the header tag. It's got other elements within here. But most of the style is being dictated here by the class, and there's all these class assignments that are being added. Some of them aren't maybe 100% useful, like they're duplicative or whatever, but you can see sort of what styles are being applied. For example, on the header, there's the background color. There's a lot that we can learn from these particular files by examining them and sort of working from them. And potentially we could extract out some of the CSS that Tailwind has been using and clean up this file from that point. What I might do is come back to this code and also take a look at it. I'm going to go ahead and open it, but I'm going to open it with Visual Studio Code. And we can get a sense of that code in Visual Studio Code and kind of how the theme sort of works here. But the Tailwind configuration and some of what's there, and then getting into the head and the content of this. So kind of taking a look, there's my header. It goes down here. You'll notice that the nav is all a part of this. So there's all of our nav elements, and I'd be able to change the link names here to exactly what I actually want them to be. I never did feed this the actual content, so it would have been interesting to see what else it could do if we gave it more starting information as well. So the whole point here is to explore, to iterate, to see what these AI tools can do for you, and maybe to speed your production along the way. I encourage you to explore and engage, in this case with Google Stitch or any AI tools you wish. Just document a little bit about your engagement with those tools along the way and how you're using them. And hopefully the tools themselves can be of value to you as you try and bring your ideas to life efficiently, quickly, come up with new concepts, etc. So have fun with Google Stitch.